mathematical, output in terms of visual and feedback on your pad. It's a mathematical equation, right, of an interpretation of a physics model in a computer game, and and all that. So I know it's a maths-based process. So when a car's got, I don't know, say for example 54% front of a front-wheel drive car, or whatever it is, depending where the engine is, it could still have a bias, a front weight bias, toward the front, even if it's rear-wheel drive or whatever. You get the idea. But I came up with a system for, calculating springs from a stock basis, and there'll be people who won't know what that means. Based on your weight bias, whether it's front or back or whatever it is, and it's like some games, they don't explain to you that the springs have already been accounted for, like when you buy springs and for a race car. So there's confusion about what the numbers are when you load up the game. There's confusion about what the descriptions of what things do actually equate to when you drive the car. When you change your settings. There's confusion about what telemetry means, how to read it properly, what it means when you change things, right? There's confusion about different forms of build to meet specific points-based criteria. In Gran Turismo it's called PP, in Forza it used to be called PI. But you get the idea that you race to a certain class, so you have to build your car to a certain class, but there might be different ways of building it, etc, etc. And basically it's about the developers taking time to teach the player how to play their game. And that goes for painting as well. So the developers need to make sure that if they've made a game that works to the parameters that they've made it, they know how it works. This is what I said on the Forza forums, is the developers must know something. They must be able to explain to us players things. Because I got into a situation where I was playing the game and I was building and I was tuning, and I wanted clear answers, like for example aero's an answer I wanted, right? So in a computer game scenario, it's a mathematical number cruncher. So if you put aero on a car, depending how fast your car is going with the aero on, weight will be added to your car, because what that will do is that will create downforce, and downforce will be translated into weight on your springs and on your car. There will be weight. So I wanted to factor that in to my spring settings and my roll bars and all that, and I wanted this discussion on the Forza forums about this, because as you know, as I previously told you, I made of the tuning discussion what I made of it, and I looked at how the game was interpreting the suspension. I came to an understanding that the unsprung weight was almost 50%. So I didn't know which way that was, but it's just something that I had read. I had a chat. This is an aside from this, so this is to add to further confusion. The brake bias. In Forza it worked a specific way for different classes and different, drivetrains, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, all that. So it works a specific way. And I talked to somebody who worked on cars in real life, and they talked about the brake bias, and the value that they gave it was completely different to what the game gave it. Because the interpretation in the video game was completely different to real life, and as was the springs and the roll bars and everything. So there were people who wanted to apply real world knowledge to the game, and it didn't work like that. So if the developers have made a game whether that's in the terms of building or tuning or painting, and it works in the parameters that they have designed, then they must know how that works. So they must be able to relay that information to the player, so that the player can has the opportunity to fully grasp how to play their game. Now, if that's in the form of text, then it's in the form of text. I will say, in this current generations where we are in video games, they can happily make videos showing you, for example, in Gran Turismo Sport, actually, because I haven't seen these in Gran Turismo 7, even though there's disk space and opportunity. They've made videos showing you, basic. Oh, there are some videos in Gran Turismo 7, circuit experience videos showing you the correct line. I think in Gran Turismo Sport there's vocal words as well, and there aren't any of those in those context videos in Gran Turismo 7. I think that's where I'm getting confused with that. So let's say, for example, you want to learn how to tune front wheel drive cars. The developers take time to make a video to explain how their tuning model works, and the same for all-wheel drive and the same for rear-wheel drive. And if they have a telemetry, they take the time to make a video to help the player to understand how to read telemetry in their game. Because what I found is each game and its tuning models and everything else and all its number crunching is different, right? So that's what I said earlier, is that Forza's different to Gran Turismo in that regard. So for me, coming from Forza and having a way of tuning in Forza, I'm going to have to learn how Gran Turismo 7 is. And I also had to learn the different iterations of Forza, because there were changes to those. And it would be nice if the developers, having that knowledge of a game that they made, would be able to share that with the player, so the player, when they get the game, can have the opportunity to learn how to play everything that the developers have made in their game. That would help the developers, because the players would be able to give good feedback. That would help the players, because the players would be able to enjoy the game fully. And that would help the community as a whole, because the players would be able to, and you know what players are like, they talk and everything, and they would be able to share things, and they would be able to create things, and they would be able to do things in their own way for their own tastes, and everybody's a winner. And the other thing that I want to add to this, right, is I strongly and firmly believe, and I firmly believe this as a Forza Motorsport player, that it would help not all of the online racing, because you're always going to get people who ram, right? But it would help online racing, because what I found when I played Forza, and I used to race online quite regularly, is I found that there were people who would ram. And I think, this is just what I think, this is my personal belief, and I've had this belief for a long time. I believe that if players are able to fully enjoy their game and take pride in their creations, their cars and their paints, they will get more involved, and they will be more passionate, and they will be less inclined to ram and more inclined to be part of a good community online multiplayer. I think that these things have an effect, or would have an effect. That's my personal belief. So going back to Alan and Team BBB, and other people have talked about sharing, people sharing tunes for those who don't know how to tune. I personally don't think that's a good idea. I think the best idea and the best solution is that developers put in their games information and places where the player can learn how to play every aspect of their game. Building, tuning, painting, you know, racing lines, all that. If you made a game to be played and enjoyed to that kind of full extent, and you know what I said before about I've never seen another video game have that kind of customization. In Forza Motorsport, when I built a car and I painted it and I tuned it and I hot lapped it and I raced it online, the sense of pride that I got from that, because everything about that car was mine. My ideas, my feel, my passion. I can't express to you how great that is, right? And if the developers can help you feel that, and me feel that in games like Gran Turismo 7 and other kind of, you know, racing games that have that level of customization, they will have done a good job. So back to Gran Turismo 7 then. It should have places in the game that the developers have put in to help everyone play their game. Explanations of telemetry. Places so that you can test your car on every track and change things like roll bars and stuff to set up your car. It should have a proper grid-based system in the painting so that you can, you know, and a number coordinates so that you can know where you've placed your shapes and how big they are, and you know where you've skewed it and whatever else you've done with it. It should have a create vinyl group. It should have these things, and it is lagging behind its competition. I think it's been very, very poorly done, both from a business marketing model, a business constructed model, because the business model doesn't suit the actual product, right? I talked about that. I'll be talking about it again in the future, because I'm not happy with the patches that have been done, and I'm not happy with the way forward, and I'm not happy with what people have said. I'm not happy. But Gran Turismo 7, as it stands, is a failure. A failure as a video game. It's very, very poor. And I think the developers need to take a long, hard look at themselves about what a game that has customization to the levels that I've been talking about should be. Okay, so on a different note, I did a video quite a while ago saying I did a look at the Project Cars 2 demo, and I said if I see Project Cars 2 cheap, I'll pick it up. This is not the They Finished the Game edition, but I did get this really cheap, so I helped myself to the DLC. So I got the full experience for less than the price of a full game. Of a full price game. So quids in for me. Second-hand market is excellent. Protect it and use it. And I'll catch you next time. Have a great weekend and take care.